I think
The
it is
bottom
if
one
we have not.
definitely is because I
Yeah.
do not
I was
recognize.
about oh, it's such a good episode! I was about to I was, like, thinking, I was like, "Wait, I think Ghosts is season 2." Very good.
Speaking of ghosts,
Now recording.
Greg, welcome in.
Speaking of ghosts, what sort of
I'm
fucked
happy
up
to have
lore
you.
have you invented for him, Ted?
Cody talks about banishing him to liminal space, so clearly
Is that
Craig is
where
not a
ghosts
person.
go?
I don't know. I don't know.
Whoa!
Oh no, I mean it's canon that Craig was in fact an audio engineer who unfortunately, passed away while doing some coding for Discord, and now you can just summon his ghost to continue with his audio engineering by using the Discord commands.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Classic trapped in the computer Star Trek episode.
God, I love that you had to insist that it had to be a Star Trek episode, though.
Well,
I don't know if
I'm
anyone
just
ever
super
gets trapped in the computer, but like trapped in like the holosuite, it's different.
I'm
Patterns
just
get lost in the
excited.
buffet sometimes.
I'm just excited that you went
That's
trapped in the
transporters.
computer Star Trek as opposed to what I thought was coming after that, which is, I don't know, Tron?
Tron?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I have seen Tron once. It is not like something that comes forefront to my mind. I apologize. That is the
Correction.
better.
Fair.
Correction, he's seen Tron Legacy. He has not seen Tron.
Yes, true.
Okay. So, how's it going, everybody?
Yeah,
I'm
good.
going down a rabbit
Welcome.
hole of Julian Bashir gifts, actually. That's where I'm at.
Should I just kick Craig and we
What?
just
No,
pull up Star Trek? Or...
Sorry.
Ted, you're in charge, man.
Oh yeah, no wonder
we're
it's
a bunch of
shit show.
derailers. I'm
Oh my
so
God.
sorry.
Who would like to recap the first real time? Who wants to recap last week? Let me just not say it
Oh.
fancy. I'll just.
Oh, I've got to. Oh shit! Was this all last session? I'm trying. Did we started in? We were already in the car. We were in the carnival at the beginning of last session.
I think at the beginning of last session we had caught the to be
Yes.
revealed Kinku.
Yes.
Yes. Who had stolen Candlefoot's voice because he needs to meet with Mr. Witch and Mr. Light because he had overheard them talking about something called the Hourglass Coven. And the fact that the two of them allowed them to come to the carnival and take whatever they wanted and leave. We also learned that the magic of the carnival is, correct me if I'm misunderstanding this, Ted, but is powered by Prismeer, a location in the Feywild that is ruled by
Zabilna.
Zabilna. Okay, I did type that out right. Okay. Zabilna, who is missing.
Steam told you all that as a warlock of a powerful archfey, Zabilna, Kettlesteam has lost contact with their patron. They, for a while now, actually, they have not been able to reach Zabilna, who rules over the realm of Prismeer to which this carnival is tied.
Okay. Yes. And so we got Nicky Boy to get Mr. Light and Mr. Witch to come to us. Or actually, we arranged a meeting with them right before the Big Top event. But we had to burn a couple of hours before then, so we went around and did some fair games to adequate success. And then we found out I was being stalked. And Banner rather abruptly confronted the stalker And then the stalker left the carnival.
Yep. A couple other. You return Candlefoot his voice and his proposal to Palasha the mermaid was accepted, and so they are exceedingly happy with the two of you as well. Just a small correction: the meeting with there was no definitive meeting set with Witch and Light. It is Nick informed you that when he mentioned the Hourglass Coven to Mr. Light, that Mr. Light went pale and refused to leave his wagon. However, he will still be emceeing the Big Top event, and so
we're
if you
jumping
want
it.
to speak to him, that is the best way to do so. That is a time that you will be guaranteed to find him out of his wagon and out of the staff area.
Yes.
So, as we left off, it was not quite time for the Big Top event. Court, you had needed to get back to the staff area and get prepared and find out really if you were going to perform as planned, and the rest of you were making your way to the Big Top tent.
Oh, I thought I was gonna try to bring them with me.
To the staff area, you can definitely try that.
To get an audience with Mr. Witch. What do y'all say? I'd have to go talk to the big man himself before I perform. Would you rather sneak in on this one or wait it out?
If we have an opportunity, we should try to take it. Though I don't know that we can try anyway.
You lead them behind the Big Top tent and past some of the other carnival attractions to the tall wall of thick thorned vines that separates the staff area and all of the wagons from the rest of the carnival. You know the password, which causes the vines to move apart and form a doorway just wide enough for you all to go through one at a time. Banner, you have to kind of duck a little bit to not quite scrape your head along the top of the archway. And you all are led into a large circle of wagons. These brightly painted and topped covered wagons. One of which you see has a large glass tank on the back, which in which and visibly preparing for some sort of performance is Palasha the mermaid. You can hear her humming happily to herself as she's putting on bits of costume. And as you exit into the sort of central area around which all of the wagons face, where the sort of the commons, a large figure dressed in dungarees and tall boots with a jack-o'-lantern on his head walks up to you all and in a somewhat deep voice, pop this, nope, wrong, that's the wrong handout, pop this one up. Burley the Bugbear, who serves as sort of he is a performer. He does do some like strongman performances, as well as serving as sort of as a personal, I can't think of the word, a personal assistant. That's not the word I'm looking for, but it'll be good enough. To Mr. Witch specifically, walks up to you. He has several books tucked under one arm, and they are all kinds of esoteric subjects, philosophy and other things that seem out of place, not specifically with Burley the Bugbear, but just in a circus.
Is So is Hurley the one who left and not Burley?
Correct.
I think I had that mixed up. How you
Hurley.
holding up?
Oi, Court. Who are these then?
Oh, there was me, you know. My company. And he winked.
Is that Nietzsche? Oh, good read. And I'm gonna try to walk right past him.
You try to walk right past him, and he just sets a massive furry hand on your shoulder, and doesn't like look down at you, but just keeps his eyes locked on Court. Aye, Court, you know better. No guests in the back, especially not right before the big top. Boss is here, Court. He's looking for you.
Yeah, and I'm going to find him with these good folks. I'll take care of it.
You're gonna get yourself in trouble, Court.
Well, you know, nothing I can't handle. Eh.
All right, your wings. Oh, it's. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't. And he just mumbles and just backs away.
Kurt just looks amused. Huh? What's wrong with him? And he trucks on.
You lead them to your personal wagon. You still don't have any roommates. Weird. In this very crowded carnival, and as you walk up, Mr. Witch is actually leaning against the door to your wagon, looking at his pocket watch. He takes off his hat, wipes his head with a handkerchief, which he puts back in his back pocket, and when he sees you and everyone, he scowls.
Howdy, boss.
Arlen is making himself look very busy, like fiddling with some doodad out of his pocket.
You work here.
And I'm very nervous.
What are you doing? I thought we had come to an understanding.
Yep,
You were
but something came up, and these good people have something we need to talk about. And also, he pulls out his little packet of dust and shakes it. But first, we gotta, is our Kenku friend still with us?
Mm-hmm.
Points at him.
He looks at you, and then he looks down at his watch, and he looks at the rest of the group, and he hits a button, and you can all hear a very loud ticking noise. 30 seconds.
You better hurry.
Okay, so basically all of us have one thing in common. We all lost something that night like 8 years ago. So that's how we're all bonded. And because of that,
Oh my god.
we met this guy, and this guy was heckling someone, but he said something about this mafia. Hemlock, what's the name?
Hourglass Coven.
Hourglass Coven. He's very curious, but we caught him. He's making trouble. Now he's not making trouble. He wanted to ask you questions. We're kind of curious ourselves because they take stuff, and we've had stuff taken. Bang.
3 seconds left. Very efficient.
Ted, were you actually timing that?
Yes. I can't say anything about this coven. I do know that you have a performance that you are, were supposed to be preparing for. If we're going to be wasting time with this sort of thing right before a performance, I have to assume, Court, that your head's not quite in it.
It is.
Stands
Boss,
up.
I can perform no problem. You know that things like this don't faze me.
It's not about phasing you, Court. It's about...
I'm an adapter.
being ready, and you were supposed to be ready. 5, 4, 3, 2, now.
He claps his hands and spreads them. Look at me. I'm right here, ain't I?
Are you in your trapeze outfit? Because that looks suspiciously like your clowning outfit, Court.
They're all the same, boss. That's my secret.
Sighs, Rich.
And come on, this is important.
Is it?
Court stares at him, trying to tell me it isn't.
Well, way I see it, there was something taken from those who were somewhere they had no right to be. And so there's something of a recompense for the perceived value which was lost upon your previous entrances.
Well, now we know that's not the only thing that's been going missing. So
We've been told that the land of Prismere, where the focal point of the power of this carnival is home, finds its home. Its mistress is not responding the way that she used to. There is some sort of miscommunication, miswiring. There is some fault that comes with the connection of this place to the Feywild, and there is some concern about that for you and the safety of your employees.
I have no concern.
No concern. Mr.
Hmm.
Witch. You know stuff has been going on. You know things aren't right around here. I know you know that. You trying to tell me you don't care?
What I'm trying to say is that there are things of which I am aware, of which you are not, need not be, and should not be. I and Mr. Light, we're the ones who run this place. We're the ones who have to worry about the connection to Prismere, which I can assure you, if there was no connection to Prismere, if that had been severed, this would not work. And he gestures all around at the carnival. But as we are operational, and as this, and he holds up the watch, is still working, everything is copacetic, ain't it?
Well, if it turns out that part of the deal to make sure that your carnival continues was you handing Harold over to Prismere, then things will not be copacetic for long.
I'm sorry, who?
Things are going missing, but more appropriately, things are being taken.
Anyone
Well,
would buy the
according-
ticket is safe. And as everyone must buy a ticket to enter, well, only those who aren't buying tickets aren't safe.
People in danger here?
This is a Fey World Court. You know how things go. There's always just that little edge. Now then, if you're still interested in your performance, I suggest you
He
hurry
takes
to
out the packet of
the
pastry dust and dumps it all over himself. I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. Get out of here! Go shoot! He shoos you all away.
He, Burley, escort them out, please. The large bugbear sort of appears from behind the wagon, still looking a little sheepish, and gestures you all, except for Court, back towards the area in the large vine fence.
I'll
where
see
you
y'all
can.
later.
He just gestures. He's not like pushing you or
Mhm.
anything.
Yeah.
Burley, are there any good stories in those books of yours?
What? No, it's mostly lessons. You know, I'm big and I'm strong, but and he taps the jack-o'-lantern that he is wearing on the top half of his head. I got to keep my mind just as fresh as I'm keeping. And he flexes, just as fresh, just as strong as I'm keeping these. Or else sometimes his arms drop. Sometimes I say stupid things that hurt people. Can we?
Well,
Ubermensch is a good place to start then. He kind of adjusts his lens and just pulls his shoulders in.
He begins to walk towards the entrance, and he wraps an arm around Hemlock's shoulders. I don't know. I find Ubermensch is honestly a little bit, and he just goes on and on. You, rest of you all, you coming, right? Well, I suppose it's just you. Arlen, you're allowed back here, but I mean, your parents are getting ready for the big top if you want to see them, or there's plenty of stuff that needs actual doing if you're working. If you're not working, I guess cheers. Banner, are you following Hemlock?
oh yeah,
and-
Banner's following him. Sorry.
Okay.
Arlen is well, I got the night off. I'll stick with these guys, and we're we'll get to be an audience member this time. So
He leads you all towards the entrance to the staff area through the vine fence. And when you're a good 50-ish paces away from where you had been speaking with Court, once you've rounded that wagon and passed a few others, he slows down and sort of begins to whisper to the three of you. All right, look, I heard you speaking with Mr. Witch, and I have to agree with you all that something's not right. My brother Hurley just, I mean, you remember Hurley Island. He was always hanging around. Well, maybe you didn't see him. Despite our size, we bugbears. We're sneaky real sneaky like. But he loved watching you folks. He wanted to be an actor. He never really worked up the nerve to ask to join one of the productions. But I mean, he just left. He just vanished. I mean, everyone says he got in an argument, but we didn't get in an argument, and he'd never leave without saying nothing to me. I don't know, but if you need any, I don't know what help I can be. But if Mr. Witch won't listen, maybe you can speak to Mr. Light. I don't know.
yeah, oh boy, this is a lot. Maybe talking to Mr. Light is a good idea. He seems a little more talking toable. But yeah, people don't just disappear like that, and Hurley's not the only case.
Yeah, I mean, Star, that little kitten Durlagrun's been, I mean, he's been snapping. He snapped at a kid earlier. He never snaps at kids. That's his old job.
Well, I think we should wait for Court to be in on this. They lost something too, and It's let's after the big top, we'll see if we can track down Mr. Light.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, good luck. If I can help, let me know, I guess. And he says the password to the fence, which once again reveals the arch doorway, just wide enough for one of you to go through single file. I guess I'll see you all at the big top then. I gotta do me strongman stuff in a little while. And he stands and waits while the door closes, which takes about a minute.
That went, frankly, better than I expected. Not very good, still.
Worked.
Mm.
As the other three are led away, Witch is still standing outside the door to your wagon, looking down at the watch that he has in his hand almost always. Look, Court, I want you to know that's too much Hurley or Burley. All right, look, Court, I've tried to be lenient. I've tried to be understanding. I don't. Employees are supposed to be safe from what goes on here, but I've tried to be forgiving, keep an eye on you, because it wasn't your fault that Glister lied to you. I mean, if Glister had told you that I had specifically warned them not to keep looking for Gleam when they're supposed to be working, you might have, well, those couple days when you were searching for Gleam and didn't. Glister told you it was cleared with me, and it wasn't. That's why they were able to target you. It was a violation, you understand. Your contract was, well, I'm running out of patience, Court. Bringing customers into the staff areas.
This is the first I've ever heard of all this. I don't think you're the one who's got patience to be running out of.
I have to think of all the performers here, Court. All of them, not just you. I gotta think of Palasha and Candlefoot and our new actors and Jeremy down at Pixie Kingdom. All the way from him, all the way up to Burley and Durlagron. I've got to think of the what are we up to? 140 something hands that run this place. Whether it's your friend Arlen, or whether it's Northwind, or whether it's Lyral or Nicholas.
Well, then where were you today?
Where was I today? I was doing my job.
Mm, Candlefoot was in trouble. Palasha was in trouble. And I ran around and I took care of it. And I brought these good folks back here because of it. And I'm just learning all this stuff that you kept from me because of it. Don't know why you're acting like, I don't know,
Of-
like you should be having this leverage over me when
You are
I'm
my
just now
employee,
learning.
Court. There's a lot about this place that, well, is sort of outside of your need to know. It's outside of your purview. You
Think I should have
are
known when I
one.
lost my wings.
Yes, well,
Didn't think I deserved to know then.
there are reasons that
You're
I
only
could
telling
not.
me now because I came and I caused a fuss and I brought people back here?
I'm telling you now because I've decided that the repercussions which this entire carnival will suffer from me saying anything, they are outweighed by your deserving to know. I can't tell you everything for reasons, well, beyond both of us. Look, just he pinches the bridge of his nose and rubs his eyes. Just here. And he pulls another packet of pixie dust out of his pocket and tosses it to you. Remember, it only lasts about a minute, so do it right before you go on, not standing out here.
You got it, Mr. Witch.
Break a leg, Cord, break a leg.
You too. He winks and then he handsprings away.
You just see Mr. Witch head back to his wagon, the largest of the crowd, sort of in the back. It is not a far trip to the back of the big top tent, where the rest of the performers are starting to um, get into their places, finalize their costume and makeup and all that stuff. Arlen, Banner, and Hemlock. Are you attending? Are you, excuse me, hanging around outside? What is the plan?
I want to clarify, were we supposed to try to find Mr. Light before? Like, we were supposed to find him before, right?
There was nothing specific. Again, it was more that he was hiding in an area that, without Court and Arlen, you didn't have access to, and you know, by Nicholas's estimate, shouldn't be in. So they were basically just saying he won't be able to hide. He will have to come out of his tent or his wagon to MC the big top event. And so finding him there either before or during or after becomes a possibility.
I feel like waiting till after the event would cause the least amount of disruption, seeing as we were trying to avoid disruption, right?
Yeah. Let's hop in there and catch the show, and then we can tail them after we leave.
Okay. Entrance to the big top tent, the big top extravaganza does not require a punch or anything like that. So you file in. And find seats. It's the long bench style seating, bleachers type deal, and it doesn't take long. The place is packed to the brim with people. There are a number of people who are sort of standing in the aisleways, who are ushered by some of the Witchlight hands to find a seat. And go ahead.
Is it possible to discern where the staff and or performers are going to be entering the tent?
Could ask Arlen.
It is pretty easy to tell. This is less, although it is set up like a 3-ring circus with seating arranged all around a sort of central performance area. There are 4 main aisleways that intersect with the largest central ring in sort of like an X shape, and the crowd is coming in through 2 of them, and then the other 2, which have a number of Witchlight hands along them, are almost certainly the entrances and exits for the performers.
Banner's going to go sit on one of those aisles.
In a seat, but next to those aisles, you mean? Am I understanding you correct?
Yeah, basically, I just want to be able to. I don't want to sit deep in the bleachers. I want to be able to get out of the seat quickly if I need to.
Okay. Finally, the last of the light fades as the entrances to the big top are the flaps are closed. The lights dim, the hush falls over the crowd, and then with a snap, a large spotlight illuminates a lithe elven figure sitting in a silver hoop, suspended above the center ring on silk ropes. He is in a dazzling suit of diamond pane mirrors with a pair of butterfly wings, holding a scepter, looks topped with a weather vane. And you all recognize the painted, smiling face of Mr. Light. And he jumps up in the hoop, and the top of his scepter spins around, and um, magical streams of light fly off in all directions and latch onto some of the ropes and the poles of that hold up the big top tent, and burst into colorful globs of light that do more as mood lighting than any like actually allowing you to see to the bottom of the ring. Welcome, welcome, one and all, to this evening's extravaganza. I am Mr. Light, prepared to be delighted. And as he finishes, in the center ring there is a sudden burst of fire in a large hoop, and a series of a series of performances continued. It begins with a with an orc in a kind of a leather harness, and he has a not manticore. What's the other one? Chimera. The three-headed chimera with the scorpion tail, and they've got that's the manticore that has the scorpion tail. No, it's the chimera. Doesn't matter. With the snake head, the lion head, and the goat head, and he's the air quotes tamer is putting this this manticore through all kinds of paces, and then they both bow and head off. Burley the bugbear comes out and does a little bit of a joke performance to start. He has an empty bar that he sort of struggles with, lifting, and then with a flash of silver light, Mr. Light, the beams coalesce onto two individuals in the audience who are escorted down to chairs that have been positioned on the bar, and Burley starts lifting this bar that has several patrons on it. Towards the middle of the performances, Palasha is wheeled out in her large gold-footed glass bowl, and the song that she performs, unlike the Silver Lake song or Silver Song Lake performance that you saw, which was sort of an adventuring, high excitement story. This is it's still an animated, like the water still animates and acts out along to her song, but this is more of a serenade as the shapes go through the forms of a number of pairs of individuals who dance and hug and kiss, and at the end Candlefoot comes out and they both sing together with somewhat startling skill on Candlefoot's part. Uh, not quite up to Palasha's standards, naturally, but still fairly amazing. The last performance before sort of um, the breakdown, I guess, is a cadre of fairy dragons with bright streamers tied to their legs and their tail that leave colorful sparkle trails of sparks behind them as they do sort of like a Blue Angels flyover fly stunts throughout the top of the big top tent. And the whole series of performances runs for about an hour until with a sort of mass medley of smaller performances and um, brain cut out there with a mass of smaller performances. The lights go out once again, and with a series of cranking sounds while you all are in the dark, the light suddenly, a single spotlight, snaps on to a figure you all recognize as Court takes to the excuse me, takes to the trapeze. Court, if I could get a performance check for me, just real quick.
Oh my god. Oh my hell.
Court, you are very practiced at this.
Mm-hmm.
This is a thing that you have done more times than you care to think about. But as you are up there and going through your routine, it's not quite the same. Time doesn't slow down, but your mind flashes back to your last performance, to the time when things just went wrong. And for whatever reason, you're still not sure how you really recovered, but you did. And this time goes similarly. There should it maybe something is messed up with the actual bars, maybe something is not quite right, but when you go to reach for one of the bars, you are not quite in correct position, and so you are forced to flutter there for a second, which only the three of you really notice. Most of the rest of the audience is still enamored by what is going on here. And once you have made it to the other side, Mr. Light is standing there and all but pulls you off the bar and onto the platform, and throws up his hands, and the crowd goes wild clapping, and then the light snaps off way before you know that it probably should have. And all you can hear is Light muttering, just, "Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh Court, oh dear." All right, well, get to the back. Go on.
And he does. He scuttles off.
A few moments later, those of you who are still in the tent and the lights come on. Mr. Light is once again in the large ring suspended from the middle of the big top, the main pole of the big top tent. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming to our big top extravaganza. You've seen what we our humble performers can do for you. Is there anyone who would like to join us here at the Witchlight Carnival? After all, who hasn't dreamed of joining the circus and running away? Anyone who would like to perform for the crowd?
Look at Banner and Arlen.
I already work here. What are you talking about?
That was not necessarily the expression, but
Several of the audience members do eventually come forward. There is a poetry recital by a small gnome, um, and a bit of ground gymnastics by a human, and the audience all applauds appreciatively. None of this is anywhere near as exciting as what the actual performers do, of course, but um, there is still a good amount of cheering for those who did perform. And as the last performer, the gymnast, returns, breathing heavily to their seats, Mr. Light stands up in the ring, which is slowly descending to the middle of the big top, the main ring, and he bows all the way until the uh, jingling bells on his hat brush the ground with a thunk. And
I would like to do something.
okay,
Uh-oh.
While he is bowing, I would like to cast a message to him,
okay.
and just say, because I'm so scared he's going, like, lights go off and we're never gonna see him again. So, uh, I would like to say we need to speak about the Hourglass Coven, and that will be it.
When you say the words Hourglass Coven, he practically falls forward. Like he loses his balance mid bow, stumbles forward, recovers by doing a roll and standing up with his hands up. The only smile on his face at this point is the one that is painted there. And he just says, "Thank you, ladies and gentlemen." And he bows. And the lights go out. The crowd, almost in unison, begins to stand as the lights, the main tent light, the tent flaps rather open up, and the light comes pouring in. From above you, there are shimmering globes that had lit up this place before. Shimmering drift globes, I should say, which return light to this place, and the crowd begins to file out somewhat slowly, the way you do from any sort of event. What's your passive perception banner? You were waiting by one of the.
I can't imagine it's very good. No, it's 11.
Okay, it's
Oh.
still enough to hear the jingling of bells as what is clearly.
I'm definitely going to try and intercept Mr. Light.
Well, I was going to say, as he is going out of the big top through one of the two things, he is already past you.
All right, I'll try and follow him out.
With a thunk, you land in the in the aisle that he was just walking down.
Mhm.
It exits out through the back of the big top tent, and in a large sort of what are those tents called? Doesn't matter. Basically, attached to the back of the big top is a large circular tent that serves as sort of a dressing area for the for all the performers. You see Palasha and Candlefoot and Burley and Court is here. Palasha sees you coming out, and her eyes go a little wide, but she waves with a smile.
I tip my face.
Mr.
Mr. Light, a moment, please.
He immediately stands up straight and whirls around, a look of genuine shock on his face.
Yes, I know.
You are not allowed to be back. You can't be back here. You can't be back here.
Well, I
Hurley,
understand,
Hurley.
but no, Hurley is no longer here. Perhaps you're asking for Burley?
Burley, get him out of here.
Well, I have really, maybe just for this evening, but really I have been an employee of the carnival this evening. I was taking tickets at the Hall of Illusion. I did some security work, which Palasha will attest to. I apprehended someone who interrupted her show, so I wanted to come back. The Big Top Extravaganza was extraordinary. It was quite wonderful. I thought maybe we could have a quick word.
Immediately when you mentioned them, Palasha and Candlefoot both step forward and confirm what you've said. Yeah, Mr. Light, he did a real big service for us for the whole carnival. Really dealt with that. Where is that? Where is that kid? It doesn't matter. He's not. He's telling the truth though. They caught the Kenku. He took over for me while I was finally able to go and Mr. Light waves a hand like shut the fuck up, Candlefoot. Yes, I'm aware of all the things you've done, and I know that you've been enjoying yourself here. You've put smiles on lots of faces. You've given prizes to the children and been of great service, but you can't be back here right now.
That is fair. I thought perhaps I just want to take this brief moment while I have your attention. Perhaps we could arrange a time when we could have a discussion. I know that there are some things that are troubling you, and perhaps we could come to some agreement, some arrangement about what we might be able to do about those things.
Make a persuasion check.
All right. Yeah, hell yeah.
Jesus, what is with the twos tonight?
Oh my god. Hey, this is a fun game.
I'm sorry.
Hey, Ted, that wasn't ironic.
He looks at you and he takes a deep breath. I'm much too busy. There are still several hours of the carnival left. There are events to plan. I still have yet to find a monarch. You can come back some other time, make an appointment. Burley, remove him. And with a very apologetic look, Burley steps in between you and Mr. Light and gestures back the way you came.
Yeah, as I'm walking out, I say, very well, I would just inform the Hourglass of your lack of cooperation. And I'll walk out.
You hear the sound of multiple bells hitting the ground. And several very choice curse words in Elvish. And as you are being escorted out, well, like, there's one other thing that occurs to me that I don't know, the way he said you all have been helping the carnival, and Palasha and Candlefoot have been just gushing about the lot of you all night. I mean, the title of Witchlight Monarch actually, like, carries some weight here. I mean, it's I don't know how it's really done, but, like, I don't know. Whoever it is, maybe you could ask them to speak to Mr. Witch and Mr. Light. or like, I don't know, just think about it. It sounds like a stupid carnival game, but it's actually a big deal.
Very well.
Do me a favor, mate. Try to keep everybody out of where you're not supposed to be. I really don't like having to do this.
Well,
I mean, one, it makes me look bad because, it looks like I'm not doing my job. This twice now. I've had customers in performance areas. I'm probably going to get fired. I
Oh,
mean,
no, Burley, please. No, I will not hear of it. Perhaps if you are interested, I see you are a big, strong individual. I am a bit of a performer myself, and if need be, we can put on a show at some point, maybe a little wrestling amongst two strong individuals. And if it means that your job is on the line and it would be beneficial, I would be more than happy to throw a match so that you would be able to win.
all right, I was kind of with you till there because I don't know, it just doesn't feel right winning a match. But
Oh well,
next time,
I
yeah, I
completely
mean,
agree, but I am just saying if that is what is necessary for you to keep your job.
well, I mean, I appreciate it. Just maybe next time we like, I don't know. Next time during the big top, we can do something. Like you step forward and
Wonderful.
I'll take up the challenge. Yeah, next time.
Well, I
But
will.
that's like tomorrow or
I will
something.
find
But
my compatriots. I will make sure we are no longer in the staff area, so not to get you in any more difficulty with your employers. And I will inform them of this Witchlight Monarch, and that perhaps we can appeal to them.
sounds good. Sounds good. You want me to press a message, anything on the court? I gotta go back in the performance tent.
Just let them know I tried to arrange a meeting with Mr. Light to no
Oh,
success.
oh no, they definitely heard that. I mean, they was in there, so
Ah, very well. Just tell them we will be waiting for them out in front of the big door.
right. We'll do. And he turns and goes back into the performance area, where he does find you, Court. Hey, Court. Your friend with the big one, and he holds a hand down. How tall are you? How tall is Banner?
6'6", I believe.
Okay, he holds his hand about at shoulder level for himself. The big one, he says they're going to be waiting for you out front of the big top. You doing okay, Colt? I mean, audience loved it. You did great. But I don't know.
Yeah, I hope I still see you around.
Yeah. I'll be here. I'll be here.
I hope I will be too. And he jumps on his hands and starts walking on his hands out to meet with everyone. Given
you
that there's nothing else going on.
yeah. While Burley was leading Banner out, you saw the sound of the bells ringing was Mr. Light throwing his hat onto the ground, revealing the sort of stark white hair that he has when it is not under his hat. Um, he. Do you speak Elvish? Did you understand him when he was cursing?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. He mutters something very darkly to himself in Elvish, and then picks up his hat, like punches it out so that the little 3 Harlequin arms with the bells are back in position. Sort of jams it on his head and wanders off back to his tent. Mr. Witch, we're gonna have to do something about this. Something's gonna have to be done, Mr. Witch.
Mhm.
As you are leaving, out of the corner of your eye, you do spot Burley putting his hands out, like measuring, and then he tries to go up onto his hands and like imitate your movement and just flops right over straight onto Candlefoot.
Keep at it, buddy.
Oh, he went through. So, yeah, well. And waiting outside the big top is the rest of your crew.
I take it did not go incredibly well with Mr. Light.
Uh,
He's not looking too good.
was not at all happy with my conversation.
Oh, what did you say?
Well, at first I told him that I knew that there was some trouble and that we had been helpful to the carnival so far this evening, and that perhaps if he would willing to meet me and my friends, that we could discuss ways that we could be of further assistance. He insisted that I leave, and as Burley was escorting me out, I, in a last-ditch effort to get some sort of conversation started, I simply said rather loudly that I would inform the Hourglass Coven that he was not being cooperative.
Oh, dear God. Oh, okay. All right. And that was, I assume, when you were evicted.
Oh, yes. But Burley did tell me a bit of interesting information. He said that there's something called the Witchlight Monarch that apparently, although it sounds like it is just some silly designation as a result of carnival game, but apparently holds some real power here within the Witchlight Carnival. And so if we can find this Witchlight Monarch, perhaps we can appeal to them and have the conversation that we so desperately want to have. Court, you are amazing. It was wonderful.
Tremendous show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Arlen, weren't you speaking of the Witchlight Monarch? Is that not someone crowned? An event, yes?
Yeah. Somebody gets crowned the Witchlight Monarch. It's kind of a big deal.
Is it a staff member?
Correct me if I'm wrong. No, it's I guessed, I think.
Correct. I was sending you. I should have done this before.
Mhm.
You know that Mr. Light is always the one who is able to magically detect one of the guests who becomes the witch, who is then crowned the Witchlight Monarch. You're not entirely positive what the qualifications are, what it is that makes Mr. Light select that individual, but it is always tied to the carnival itself and the mood of the carnival, as well as the scepter that he carries. It functions almost like a dowsing rod.
Yeah, I mean, there's not any rhyme or reason. It's just somebody.
Just somebody.
Yeah.
He looks at Court, like about to ask a question, and kind of thinks better of it, and says, "Well, I don't suppose there's any way that we could assist in this, or should we perhaps just wait until they are crowned and then try to speak to them afterwards?"
Guess y'all can aim to be the monarch.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? One of you might wind up getting the crown yourself.
Yes, Emlock, with your ring toss skill and the way you have been so generous to the little children that have been here at the carnival, I imagine you would make a wonderful monarch.
That's a fair point. He kind of nervously glances towards the exit of the carnival, and then says, that may very well end up being a determining factor. If that is the case, then perhaps, not with any selfish intent per se, but a attempt to assist others around the carnival and just and continue as we have been.
Yes, it sounds like our perhaps our best opportunity to continue this conversation with either Mr. Witch or Mr. Light is to invoke the help of whomever is the Witchlight monarch, whether we are able to obtain that crown or if we must wait until that person is crowned later this evening. In either event, it seems that we should go out and engage as much as possible in the carnival. I cannot imagine that sitting and watching the hours roll by would qualify one for the Witchlight Monarch.
Yes, yes. Hemlock will look around the field, the carnival, see anything that appears to be nearby and interesting.
You are standing once again outside the big top tent. You can still hear the sound of the calliope where Marigold, the ladybug goblin, is collecting buttons. The sound of the carousel is not far off with its very distinctive music. There is a certain amount of there is a certain amount of noise coming from what Arlen you recognize as the lost property area, where you can see Durlagron is once again back at his post instead of trying to sell tickets, keeping an eye on several children who have become separated from their parents. I really wish I just had a list of events, but it doesn't.
That's okay.
Y'all feel like going and checking in on Durlagron? He seems having a roughin'.
Yes, sounds like a fine idea. Perhaps we can be of some assistance.
Yes.
Now, I'm not supposed to work tonight, but, I got a soft spot.
It's not a far trip, just past the Calliope wagon to the somewhat familiar large circular pink and white tent of lost property. The ground is covered in a just plethora of large plush pillows and stuffed animals, and they're crouched down with the wooden keg around his neck and the large butterfly wings strapped to his tentacles is the displacer beast Durlagron. He is a little more. There's a little more silver to his fur than the last time you all saw him, and as you watch him, there are two young human children, one of whom is hanging off of his neck, just squealing in delight as every once in a while Durlagron will pick him up with a tentacle and kind of toss him around not toss him around, but like wave him around, like a good almost 10 feet in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Durls, how's it going?
Oh God.
Arlen, my good friend, how are we doing this evening? Arlen,
Oh.
this is my friend Vero, and the one of the two children who is on the ground, like runs and hides behind Durlagron's flank. and the other one, who is wrapped up in Durlagron's tentacles, is brought down. And this here is Alwyn. Alwyn, say hello to my friend. What brings you here?
Oh, we just, heard the commotion. Thought we'd swing by. It's been a topsy-turvy night. Oh, everything.
I've good.
I know it's, maybe a little rougher whenever I'm not around to help you wrangle them, but, nobody getting lost yet, right?
No. The boys, their mother just went to grab something to eat and drink at the orchard, so I agreed to watch these two while while that was being done. My boy, the news is that these must be the guests that were in the staff area. But,
Yeah.
news does travel fast, small carnival and all that.
Mm-hmm. Say, Durl, you haven't heard of the, shoot, Hemlock, give me that name again, the gang, the
I
mob.
I don't know if we should be just throwing that around.
Wait, you mean that we should not be talking openly about the Hourglass Coven?
He pinches the bridge of his nose, cleans his monocle.
Does that
Can't
ring
Good.
any bells, my old friend?
He rubs his chin with one tentacle, having put Alwyn onto the ground. I don't know that I have, but And as he is contemplating, you see a couple feet to the side of him, the boy Alwyn is rummaging through a box of lost property, Excuse me. And he comes out of it with a small red ball with a large golden mirrored star in the middle of it, and with a somewhat startling speed, Durlagron immediately snatches the ball out of his hand with one of his tentacles, and before he can stop himself, like, you can see his teeth out, and he catches himself after a minute, and like the boy Alwyn is just stunned. Like, he's not hurt, he's just completely stunned that this ball was just snatched out of his hand, and there's this, I mean, large six-legged, two-tentacled panther staring at him. And go ahead.
Perhaps, Durlagron, you could take an opportunity to get some fresh air. One moment. And Hemlock folds his legs under him and goes through his bag and pulls out a black leather box, which he opens, that has like some pigments and creams and colors and things. It's a disguise kit. And then I'm going to take my wand and cast prestidigitation on some of the pigments so that they turn bright and vibrant, like colors, and I beckon the children to come closer to me.
Make me a persuasion check. This child is very clearly on the edge of fight or flight, which,
Yeah.
He's a child, so it's going to be flight. His face does the thing where, like, it scrunches up as he is very clearly on the edge of wailing. And you set down the box and do your magic, and that catches his attention. And then as you gestured to him, he seems to, one, realize that he is not at all hurt, like he's not injured or anything. And he very, very cautiously makes his way to you as Durlagron awkwardly pours a cup of the familiar apple toffee drink from the keg.
If you need some time, and he'll kind of look past the child at Durlagron, we will be here. Arlen will be here to supervise, and we can keep them entertained until their mother returns.
Durlagron visibly collects himself. Thank you. That will not be necessary. I am.
You sure, Durl?
It's yes. This should not. And he is holding up the ball in one of his tentacles. This simply shouldn't have been in the box. It belonged to my cub Star, and I still don't know where he went. It shouldn't have been in there, but I shouldn't have snapped.
Take.
It's the
You
angry
sure you don't
alien.
want to take a walk, Durl?
I absolutely. I cannot desert my post. I will just make sure this doesn't.
How long has Star been missing?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Court looks pointedly at the kids and back at Banner and like shakes his head. Is like, mm-mm.
It's all right, Court. It's all right. Star vanished from the carnival sometime a few months ago when we were on the world of, where did I say you all were before? Eberron. No, Athos. It's a desert world. It's a terrible place. But thank you, young man, for reassuring my friend Alwyn there.
I just quietly nod as I start drawing like little flowers on her cheek with the pigments.
It's probably about 10 or 15 minutes before the children's mother appears, and they go running over with their faces painted and just giggling like crazy as she pretends to be afraid of them or not recognize them. She hands them each a little thing of mini cupcakes, and they shovel a couple into their mouths as they wander off towards one of the other attractions down the main thoroughfare. I can't thank you enough. It's been a strange night, and there's certainly plenty of going on. Witch and Light are on edge, and the Hurley and Star and Gleam and Glister. It's it's nice to be able to do things for the guests, but I suppose every once in a while we can appreciate the guests doing things for us as well.
If there's anything else we can do. Time does not always entirely heal all wounds, and the loss of a cub is extreme. You should not upset yourself over a reasonable expression of your frustration. The child was unhurt.
Court opens his mouth and then shuts it again.
He holds out the ball to you, Hemlock. I haven't given up hope that I will find Star still. I mean, we never found, but that doesn't mean he's lost to me entirely.
I take the ball and I kind of turn it over a few times.
It is a small leather ball it is a small ball made out of red leather with a bit of gold, basically sequining in the shape of a star on one of the sides.
Mhm.
It's about the size of a softball.
I just passively curious. I cast Detect Magic to see if it's anything besides that.
Nope, it is
Nope.
just a ball.
You said it's about the size of a softball. How big is Durlagron?
Mechanically, Durlagron is large. He is
Okay.
a fully grown displacer beast.
Okay. Hmm. Can't believe I gave my sewing kit at this point.
Can't believe what?
I had an idea, but I don't have a sewing kit anymore. Let's see.
I mean, I assume part of the disguise kit would.
Contain some needle and thread.
Yeah.
I'm going to begin undoing some of the stitching on the leather, and I'm going to thread some larger loops with some of the string that I might have, so that Durlagron can keep this on their collar where the with that little barrel, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah. As big as they are, I don't think that a softball size token will be too obstructive to them.
Definitely not. Yeah, the barrel itself is like a small keg, so
Mm-hmm.
a softball sized leather ball is not much.
Yeah.
He looks extremely. At first, he is a little confused, by you undoing the stitching on the ball, and he starts to say something until he realizes what you are doing, and then just nods appreciatively, clearly sort of unable to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps, perhaps I will take that walk. There doesn't seem to be anyone here. Court, Arlen, would one of you tell Nicholas I am taking my break?
Mm. Yeah, sure thing.
And he sets off behind the lost property tent down to the Blue Ribbon River, and just you see his tentacles up in the air as he is walking, holding up his monarch butterfly wings.
Or hand springs away to go tell Nick.
Lost Lost Property is not very far from the ticket booth, as you can sort of
Yeah,
see.
that's why Court's being
Hey, Court. Great.
He-
How's it going, kid? Good show tonight, I guess. Yeah, I mean, how you doing? Is
Well,
Witch still pissed?
we'll see. Cheryl's taking a break.
Okay.
He
I
told
guess
me to
just
tell you. Don't be like that, Nikki.
yeah. No. He just rarely takes a break. That's all. Hey, Fib, and he's calling over to a witchlight hand who is leaning against the ticket booth, speaking to to a carnival goer. Hey, go over to Lost Property. Telegram's on break. The guy nods, and those of you who are at Lost Property a few minutes later see uh, a halfling witchlight hand with the telltale wings and name badge uh, walking to Lost Property.
We are free.
Perhaps where are we? What's down that way? And he points, like, I guess, towards the dragonfly rides. That's the next thing I see, like, on the circle.
At any point, you all are welcome to wait for the crowning. I do
Oh, okay.
appreciate you going to all of these things. Don't
Oh,
get me
okay.
wrong, but
All right. I'll leave that up to everybody, you know.
um,
Do we want to keep going to stuff, or do we want to just wait?
Well,
I
at the
mean-
very least, let's check out these dragonfly rides.
Yeah, I'm down to keep going to stuff. There are
There's-
prizes and stuff.
Court looks grumpy. He's like, those fucking frogs. I swear to God.
true enough, the huge lily pads that you all vaguely remember, except for Banner, who I'm sure remembers them with crystal clarity, are here at the Dragonfly rides, resting on the surface of a pool glistening with various shades of phosphorescent algae. There are giant dragonflies using these lily pads as landing pads, and the buzzing of their wings is extremely loud, almost deafening. But it's actually, despite the volume, the sound, it has a musical quality to it. And they are all fitted with saddles, these humongous dragonflies. And near the archway entrance to the dragonfly rides, you all see the familiar form, the tall, gangly, dark bark limbed treant sapling Northwind. And climbing throughout some of the lower branches of Northwind's hair is um, the bright red squirrel, appropriately named Red, that you all saw during um, the gifts that were handed out at the beginning. He's the one that handed out all of the dandelions, and as you all, hey, Cord, hey, man, how's it going? How you doing? How's everybody? How's everybody's night going? Nice and chill? Yeah.
These fucking frogs.
What's wrong with the frogs? I mean, they're just out swimming.
I don't know. It gave me bad vibes, these frogs.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I guess they do freak people out. You all coming to ride? Are you gonna?
Uh, sure.
How's It's one punch, man. One punch for your tickets. And
Yeah, produce a ticket.
Yeah, wonderful.
Um, who's covering that guy? And he's gesturing to Kettle Steam, who has been sort of silently following along this whole time.
I will pull out the second ticket that was given to me and say, you may punch this for Ketherstein.
Right on, dude. Right on.
I thought he had a ticket.
He does have the wings. He has not yet produced a ticket at any time.
What an
Rude ass
asshole.
bitch. Yeah.
It is surprising that these dragonflies are able to even lift your bulk banner, your rather large warforged body. Anyone who is climbing on, go ahead and make me an animal handling check.
God, for a blinding second there, I had a horrible thought that I was actually proficient in this. Also, it feels very good that Banner is good with the animals.
The ride up as you all get mounted onto your dragonflies and Northwind uh, clacks two of his branches together. All right, dudes, off you go. And the dragonflies take to the air. They fly up about 20 feet into the air over the water and start doing some fairly quick, not loops, but circles and figure eights. Some of them they seem to know not to leave the water area, and uh, Hemlock, yours goes in a fairly set pattern. It does not deviate at all, and no matter what you, and I don't know that you really make any sort of effort to really get it moving and doing something else.
I have hooves. They're not really good for like riding and like I horseback riding. That never happened.
The rest of you are able to sort of push them a little bit and uh, get them going into sort of faster and tighter turns. There's a little like you at some point have sort of a mini race that you um, sort of agree to unspoken as you all just sort of pull up on Hemlock and then take off past him. Um, and you can hear Kettle Steam sort of mumbling and making the sound of like a snapping belt. And he clearly had some sort of plan that did not happen. And the dragonflies land after about 20 or 30 or so, about 20 minutes of flying around this area. And Northwind greets you all as you land. Right on, dude. Some of you got some real moves up there. Hey, hey, I don't mean to be like presumptuous, Court, but like, are Witch and Light still pissed? Like, they've been on they've been coming around and just like snapping at everybody tonight. I don't get why.
Yeah, me neither.
I mean, I know we're not supposed to talk about it, but like we get that they're not the owners, but we like the original owners, but like we all love them. So like, why are they such? I don't know, man. I don't know.
We just, I don't know. We gotta be there for him, you know? And he pats one of his roots.
Yeah, yeah, I guess. Like, yes. All right. Well, and you guys want
Say,
any more like dandelion seeds? I think Red's got a few left. Oh, not
say,
dandelions. Sycamore. Yeah. What's up,
say,
dude?
Northwind, forgive me, but I could not help but overhearing. Who originally owned this carnival?
Oh, uh, I don't know actually. Like,
Hmm.
they were running it by the time I joined, but like, I don't know
I see.
some of the old hands, like Thaco. Oh man, that dude, he's been here longer than Witch and Light, and yeah. But I don't know. It's really weird. Like they're not even from the Feywild, but like don't tell anybody. Thank you, Adam. Thank you.
Son of a bitch. I'm gonna need a minute.
Actually, this is a pretty good time. Let's go ahead and take our 10 minutes as we have wrapped up here at the Dragonfly Rides. Let's take 15 minutes. We'll be back at like 10 after.
Sounds good.
Hey, don't scratch at that, kiddo.
wrapped up a ride around on the dragonflies and had a brief conversation wherein Northwind the Treant uh, definitely didn't say things he wasn't supposed to, and um, uh, following okay, brain is back together now. Where are we headed? What are we doing?
Suppose we could just wait now, yeah, everybody? Or does anyone have something they really want to do?
No, we can kick it.
You spend the next couple hours sort of just wandering the carnival. There are some other games that you pass, the Cyclops Stare and Bash a Beholder and some other stuff. But
Oh, wait.
boy.
I definitely have to do the Cyclops Stare. Arlen was poking me about it. That might get us to the Witchlight Monarch.
You walk up to somewhere towards the southern end of the circle that you all have been on at the top of at the top air quotes end of the map, surrounding the carousel, sort of between the Calliope and is a booth set up much like the goblin wrestling booth that you have seen before. There's a roped off square with a raised platform, where in a oh, please tell me I have this picture to show you, because this suave Cyclops is perhaps the best thing.
Oh my god.
I like those two words back to back.
Yeah.
I like his art on the map.
Nice art on the map.
Just like the little Cyclops head sitting on a table at the...
I'm sorry, can you ping for me what you're talking
about? This is the one we're talking about?
Most of these without a label are just kind of for whatever.
It says outstare the Cyclops.
Are you...
Yeah, there are two little tints at the very bottom that are
Zoom
like,
into it, Ted.
That one, and that's where I came up with the Cyclops one. It's also right next to the ring toss.
Ring toss. Holy crap! I never knew that.
Ted, look at it.
I never zoomed that far because I've been operating on the paper map and I can't read it.
Yeah, I was zooming in to see how if those signs were legible if I zoomed in.
Well, this map has a lot of lovely detail. I've been sweeping it. But yeah, the little Cyclops head on the table, it's silly. I like it.
That's spectacular.
Oh my god, yes.
What are you all seeing that I'm not seeing?
It's in
Discord.
Oh, I was like, did a pop-up come
this
up?
little kid.
Oh,
Seated on this little platform is in fact a Cyclops with unlike the Cyclopses of sort of Tales, this individual is in fact dressed in the same sort of uniform of many of the performers here at the Witchlight Carnival. He does have a comically undersized pair of butterfly wings on his back. he is seated so that he can stare at the current participant, a dwarven man who, after a considerable amount of time, does in fact beat the Cyclops, who laughs just thunderously, and very, very carefully claps this dwarf on the shoulder and hands him um, one of the stuffed spiders that you had received previously, Hemlock.
God, it's such a good magic item, and I just gave it to a child.
And as you step up to the as you step up to the ring, he looks over at the group of you and, so who is my next challenger? Oh, hey, Court, how you doing?
Banner's,
Hey.
Banner's climbing in the ring.
He looks at you climbing into the ring, like leans over to one side to look at Banner and to not Banner, to look at Arlen and Court, and shrugs and like gestures like a what the fuck is this?
Or just smiles.
Oh god, I never noticed the wagon, not the wagon, the booth has a giant eye on top of the
Mhm.
on
It
top of the tent.
does.
What else have I missed in this map?
It's beautiful. You should explore it, my friend.
He looks at you for a moment, and just from his seated position, he reaches up to the top of the tent, and where there are a number of prizes hanging from the ceiling and rested on shelves, and he initially grabs a bottle of what looks like a bottle of wine, pulls it over, like looks at it, looks at you, puts it back. Well, mostly what I have is carnival wine.
That would be fine, but
What?
I also understand. I am here mostly because Arlen wanted to see. But if you would like to do, I know it's not your regular, but if you would like to do something a little more sporting, perhaps maybe arm wrestling.
Thinks for a minute. He sort of leans back and he leans back and he's shuffling around with one hand behind, like at the edge of the tent, and he sets a table down in front of you. He pulls it over with one hand very easily, looks at it, looks at his arm, looks at you, puts the table back, and just lays down on the ground, like with his arm up. I may not be able to outstare you, but I might be able to take you here. Make me a strength check.
All right.
It'd be fucked up if I hexed somebody right now, wouldn't it? Just a little curse.
Just a straight strength check or an athletics check?
Athletics is fine.
Okay. Getting the bad dice rolls out of the way early.
You lay down and grab his hand. His hand like practically dwarfs, like he can, like his grip.
Mhm.
It takes a minute to get it positioned correctly because his hand is like trying to he's getting part of your forearm when he grabs you, and it after a few minutes.
Yeah, no, that is good. I think I've got it. I think I've got it. I might have it. Oh boy.
Oh, that was great. Thank you. I do appreciate that, though. And he sits back up and holds out the bottle of wine.
Very kind.
My pleasure. I thought it only fair. Have a wonderful evening.
You too. You too. Anyone else? Anyone else want to actually outstare the Cyclops? Huh?
I might give
You?
it a try.
All right. Step up.
He,
One punch, by the way. Sir, if I could have your ticket.
yeah,
Oh,
I
absolutely.
provide it and pocket my monocle. Kind of squint for a second.
Very fancy. I should get one of those.
It's particularly good when only one of the two functions properly.
I just read that this is an illusionary Cyclops, and I don't care. Make me a Constitution check. Just raw Constitution.
Hell yeah.
He cracks his knuckles and he puts his hands sort of like in the picture, and he leans down to stare at you. He's staring, you just stare right back, shift a little bit, and he's staring, and like you can see the sweat forming on his face. And he blinks.
Woohoo!
Good show, good show. And he retrieves his glass and replaces it.
Oh man, boss, it's gonna be. I don't think I've won a single match tonight. This is just like,
I mean, you could always play against me. You'll definitely win that fight or match.
all right. Well, first off, here you go. And he reaches up into the very, very like pinnacle of the tent, and he pulls down a box about maybe a foot at its longest. It is carved. It is wood carved with very. Oh God, what's the word I'm looking for? It's trees and leaves, but they're not like, it's not like a realistic carving. It's very stylized carving of a small clearing with a stag with a heart in the middle of it.
Ooh.
HART, not
Yeah,
with
yeah,
a
yeah.
and he hands it to you. And when opened, it begins to play a tune, which, weirdly enough, you do recognize. It is a tune that, when you were a child and not feeling great, that Lucian would sort of hum to you.
Oh God, no!
This is what happens when your carnival prize lucks into a trinket. So, I didn't actually roll. Damn it. That's okay. Arlen, as you step in, he's as you step in, he picks up a water skin, sort of leans his head back, dumps a little bit into his eye, squeezes it shut. Okay. All right, Arlen, you work here. I'm not going to worry about your ticket. On 3. 1, 2, 3. And I need a Constitution check from you.
Jack of all trades, baby.
All right.
Oh, okay. I wondered what that +1 was. I was like, what in the world? Yeah, he stares intently, and you are staring back, and there is a stray sort of gust of wind that hits you square in the face, and you blink. It's like, oh, thank you, Arlen. Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate.
anytime. No problemo, big guy.
Don't tell anybody? And he reaches in and pulls down one of the unicorn horns full of candy and hands it to you.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Oh, man. Well, it'll be monarch crowning in a little bit, in like, I don't know, maybe a half hour or so. You all gonna attend?
You know it.
One of us might even win.
Woo-hoo-hoo.
Oh, well,
Not me,
Guess-
though. I mean, I can't. But,
yeah.
you know,
Well, I mean, you can. I mean, technically, I guess.
I guess I
Who
could just, like,
knows?
quit the carnival for, like, a night.
I mean,
He
who
didn't
knows
work tonight.
how Light does. It's that weird thing of his. Who knows how it works? Excuse me. The in the carnival, which you all have seen that the time flow here is not quite as tied to the Faerunian sun. The sun here, despite it very clearly being what would, I mean, judging by the time you've been here, it would normally be very early in the morning. The sun is only finally truly setting here in the Witchlight Carnival as the magically amplified voice of Mr. Light comes across to everyone in the carnival. His voice has returned to its somewhat jovial sound that you all have experienced a few times, and it sort of echoes around throughout the carnival and almost a little bit inside your heads. Come one, come all, to the crowning of the Witchlight Monarch. This, the final, greatest event of our stay here in Faerun. Glasses on. And as you all are making it back to the big top tent where the Witchlight Monarch is crowned, you can see Mr. Witch is walking along the front of the tent, escorted by Durlagron, who is carrying in his tentacles a hat box. It is striped in blue and silver. It is maybe like 18 inches round. Yeah, that's about right. And the crowds have begun to file into the big top, into the stands around the main ring. The two side rings have been removed, and more seating has been set. Is there anything you wanted to do before you go into the tent?
Nope.
Anyone want to do a little bit of gambling? Sometimes we like to put money on who's going to win. Generally, everyone always loses their money. I don't know who
Yeah.
gets the money, actually.
Yes,
Yeah.
it seemed like, frankly, absolutely terrible odds.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But
think
if
about
you
if you
won,
win.
I got one gold.
No, I don't think I will.
All right, fine. Suit yourself. My money's on Banner.
Very kind of you.
Total something real quick.
All of Banner's wins.
Yeah, the only one I had was the goblin wrestling, I believe.
Oh, that's right.
I participated in a lot enthusiastically, but
Listen, sometimes that's what it's about. We don't know.
The lights come up in the big top tent, and in the middle of the ring is Mr. Light. He is once again seated in the large silver ring suspended from shimmering silk ribbons from the rafters of the main tent. And he holds up his scepter, which you can, I mean, if you somehow haven't seen it, is the sort of butterfly-shaped, vaguely crownish-shaped red and gold scepter that you have seen him carrying anytime you have seen him here at the Witchlight Carnival or in his wagons. And as the lights come up and he stands up and holds on to one end of the ring and holds out the scepter with his other hand and starts to the ring starts to spin in a circle. A golden light starts to emerge from the weather vane, or from the vein in his hand, the scepter, and with the sound of wind chimes, almost as think of like a Disney cartoon effect on like a fairy godmother wand, where it's got the little sparkles coming out and the sort of wind chime noise, as he starts to spin in a very large circle. The Witchlight Monarch is not just a silly title. The Witchlight Monarch is bestowed, the title of Witchlight Monarch is bestowed upon someone who has, thank you, yes, exactly, but gold, is bestowed upon somebody who has brought joy and happiness and has themselves been happy here at the Witchlight Carnival. It is it is a great honor to be crowned Witchlight Monarch, and this is no decision for a mere mortal to make. And so we trust in the magics of the Witchlight Carnival to decide. And as he says decide, the ring just fully stops in place. It stops spinning. All inertia just gone, and the trail of golden magical energy sort of spirals and sparkles and twists and turns, swirling over the entire crowd, dropping golden sparks into the stands that sort of feel like wonderfully warm and calming raindrops, but you don't get wet. As this magical energy sort of warms everybody, and eventually the sort of trail of magical energy settles above you, Banner, and just sort of spins in a circle. And Mr. Light stares at you incredulously for perhaps a moment too long, and realizes that he should have said something by now. Oh my goodness! The Witchlight Monarch, everyone! Please come down. And he gestures as the ring finally settles onto the ground, and he steps off of it, and it is raised back into the rafters. He gestures to the spot in front of him, next to the.
I will walk down there, waving at the crowd with one hand.
Court is going nuts, by the
And-
way.
and tipping my face to the crowd with the other.
As you are making your way down, Mr. Light begins to sort of not eulogize. That's the wrong word. Proselytize. He's going over.
Pontificate?
Yeah, that's probably a better word. He's going over as if sort of wrote some of the things that you have done here at the Witchlight, defending Marigold, the button goblin, at the Calliope, your participation, your second place in the snail racing, which perhaps could have been a first. And he puts a finger to the side of his nose and sort of stares at you for just a second, Arlen. He talks about your efforts in uniting two, not one but two different couples in love, as a light appears over both Runin and Wick, the two halflings you met outside the Hall of Illusions. And as you reach the area in front of him, a light appears, illuminating the space behind him, and there is Palasha's globe, where she begins to sing an absolutely beautifully joyous song as a group of diminutive pixies carrying bright lights dance around her and over to you, and Mr. Light very solemnly holds his scepter in two hands and gestures for you to kneel in front of him.
Yeah, I take a knee.
General Banner, I hereby dub thee... No, not general. Wrong word. My brain is mush. Title. Forget it. Banner, I hereby dub thee Witchlight Monarch. And he opens... He taps your shoulders. Bless you.
Sorry, I tried to mute quick enough.
He taps each of your shoulders with the red and gold scepter, and then opens. He takes the lid off this box that is resting on a small stand in front of him, and as he removes the lid, a cluster of golden butterflies fly out of the box and circle around a crown, which is likewise formed out of pure gold and studded with some fancy gemstones. The crown itself it looks as though it is made of butterflies whose wings are touching edge to edge. And he tries for a moment to remove your hat, like your helmet, realizes that it doesn't come off.
Yes,
Sorry, go ahead.
All one piece, Mr. Light. It's okay. It confuses everyone.
He seems absolutely overjoyed by this. Like, he thinks this is the greatest thing ever as he sets this crown very delicately on your head. And it doesn't look like it's going to fit around sort of the central part of the what are those called? Pinion helmets?
For the sake of this conversation, yes, that's exactly what they're called.
we looked this
We'll
up.
learn
a couple
eventually.
sessions. Well, Max, I think you found it a couple of sessions ago when we first heard, but regardless, it doesn't matter. The crown, which doesn't look like it should fit around the shape of this helmet, does seem to resize itself as it slides down and somehow continues to slide down until it is resting around the base of the helmet of your head. And as Halasha's song concludes, a trio of clowns appear seemingly out of nowhere and begin to shower you in just handfuls of colored glitter. Mr. Witch, I'm sorry, not Mr. Witch, Mr. Light, gestures for you to stand.
And I do.
Mr. Witch this time steps out from sort of the shadowy area behind Mr. Light and says, doesn't say anything as he gestures for you to follow him, and he leads you on sort of a circuit of the stage, showing you off to the crowds who are all cheering loudly, and a couple of them have handfuls of glitter that they are also throwing, which is great with the helmet that you have, because it is just catching and like collecting in there in deep puddles of glitter.
Yes,
and
yes.
Mr. Witch,
I accept. I am very happy to take over control and running of the carnival. Of course, I will keep Mr. Witch and Mr. Light on. They have been very kind. We have some misunderstandings, but such is the case when you meet new friends. But the carnival is wonderful. I will try my very best to keep everything as running as smoothly as it has, and there will be very few changes. The only thing I can think of immediately is the lily pad chest will be back as soon as possible.
for the first time ever, and it is possibly the driest sound you have ever heard, Mr. Witch just begins laughing.
Oh, God, it's terrifying. Oh, no, that's a laugh. Oh, wonderful.
Don't let the title go to your head too much. Mr. Light is going to take you on a victory parade, as it were, around the carnival, and then perhaps we can all speak again later.
Wonderful. May my friends come with me on the parade?
He nods his head acquiescently. Of course.
Wonderful.
This parade is for everyone. And as he finishes the circuit of the circus tent ring and brings you back to Mr. Light, Mr. Light begins sort of marching in place, sort of like a what is the guy at the front of a marching band called?
Drum
The
major.
marshal?
Yeah,
Drum major.
Thank you. He's sort of standing there, literally marching in place, moving the scepter in his hand up and down, and with music seemingly piped out of nowhere. This is not the Calliope. This is in fact like a full marching band song, although there is no band to be seen anywhere. He begins to parade you around the entirety of the carnival. You exit the tent, and you turn down and head towards the Hall of Illusions, and all of the performers that were at the big top for this event, and many of the others begin to fall in behind you. Candlefoot and Burley and Northwind and several others whom you've seen, but obviously don't know by name, begin to fall in, and sort of you do the figure 8 of the entire carnival several times, as the crowd, which is lined up all over, like inside and outside, is cheering. There are fireworks going off in the air. there are fireworks going off in the air. There is all kinds of celebration. And as you finish your second circuit and make it back to the big top, the din has sort of started to die down. The sun is completely set, and many of the customers have started to make their way back to the entrance and back to Flame. And as you reach the big top, Mr. Light turns to you all. Many of the performers have wandered off, although Candlefoot, not Candlefoot, Burley rejoins you shortly afterwards. And Mr. Light looks to you all as, with a shower of colored sparks and a further handful of glitter, the crown teleports away. It just blinks out of existence. And Mr. Light stretches out. Well, that was quite the surprise.
Yes, I was quite surprised myself, but very much fun. So will you two be giving me the backstage tour so I can better understand the operations?
You seem to misunderstand my dear friend. You are not taking over the running of this thing. I'm afraid
Well,
that's
of course, because I am the
contractual.
king. I am the king. There will be other people running it, but I will be in charge. I will tell them what to do.
Let me see if I have this. First off, I will have to get that in a second, because why would you put something as important as this in the treasure? God, I should have checked this. You do receive, and I will populate this in a journal entry, the Charm of the Monarch. You have 3 uses of this before the charm vanishes from you. As an action, you can sprout a pair of. It's actually not an action. I take that back. You can sprout a pair of beautiful butterfly wings out of your back,
Hell yes.
and while you have them, you have a flying speed equal to your walking speed, and a +5 bonus to all charisma-based ability checks. The effects last for an hour, and you can do
Hell
that 3
yes.
times. It was very close between you and Hemlock.
Wow.
As funny as it sounds, the big thing was the snail racing.
Of course it was, because I didn't do anything. Yeah.
Mr. Light looks at you, sort of measuringly. He is clearly calculating something in his mind, and he just says, "Perhaps we can speak again in a little while. Let's let the carnival finish off, and then perhaps we should all speak. I'll get my partner, Mr. Witch. The rest of you be at the staff area in, what shall we say, 45 minutes?"
It works for me. How about for the rest of you?
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
I mean, this has been the most interesting night at the carnival since the last time we were here. So yeah, I'm definitely down for whatever this is going to be.
He nods and picks up the now empty hat box, which has been resting here by the entrance to the big top. Court, Arlen, the 2 of you know the password. You can get them in, but if there's any confusion, just call for Burley. And he turns and goes through the big top and into the performers area.
Congratulations, Banner. That is quite something.
It is certainly something, but I believe it is a victory for all of us. We spent the almost all of our time together, and as such, a victory for one is a victory for all. I believe we should celebrate. And Banner will pull out that bottle of Carnival wine, will pop the top of it, will hold the bottle up to where his mouth should be. Uh-oh, what did I just do?
When you pop the so the carnival at this point is fairly quiet. The last of the people are leaving through the entrance. The Calliope has shut down, but the moment you pop the top off of the bottle of wine, the music that the Calliope was playing begins to pour out of the bottle. Like, you can hear the music coming from this bottle of wine. It is still full of elven wine, but the music does begin to play.
Yes, it is a celebration. And Banner sort of mimes drinking some wine and then hands it off to whoever is to his right.
A little bit sloshes onto your leather face disc and proceeds to slide down and drip onto the ground.
Fantastic.
I'll have some as well.
This is delicious. Like, probably Hemlock, you come from a reasonably well-off family, and fancy wine is not unknown to you. This is better than anything you've ever had. That goes for pretty much all of you except Banner, because, you know.
Yeah. Pass it around and wait 45 minutes.
As the last of the wine is consumed, the music does finally fade off and stop when the bottle is empty. Unless anyone has anything they want to do, specifically while you wait, the wait goes quietly. There are hands that wander by at various times, sort of doing cleanup, you know, picking up food containers and empty bits of prizes and lost articles to take over to the lost and found. You do see, some of the entertainers wave as they make their way back towards the large vine fence and to their wagons. The stars have finally truly begun in earnest, as there is little to no light pollution left, as most of the tents have finally shut down when Burley does make his way around the big top and gestures with a large furry thumb towards the staff area. Witch and Light, they're waiting if you want to follow. Good job, by the way, Banner. I figured you'd just go find whoever the monarch was. I didn't. Congratulations, Your Majesty.
Thank you. My reign will be strict but just.
Hemlock does a double take.
Hey, just want to say, Grav, that's the Cyclops, mentioned that at some time you might try to get some wrestling in. Think I could try my hand one time.
Yes, absolutely. Banner lays down on the ground and puts his arm up.
Well, I didn't mean right now, but
I am terribly sorry.
I got to get you to Witch and Light, but I mean, like, there's a table right over here. He pulls back the flap on one of the food tents.
Yes, but of course.
Right. Make an athletics check.
Oh my god.
Nice.
The two of you settle at this table. It's very low. It's a normal sized table that ordinarily people would sit at, and even sort of resting on your knees. Like it's still a little lower for the two of you because you are so tall. And there's a bit of awkwardness as you set up the arm wrestle, and with with there's a bit of back and forth and a bit of struggle, and after a few minutes or so, uh, he does pressure your hand to the table, and sort of breathing heavily. Oh, 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 good God, mate, that's. Whew.
A
Thank you.
victory well earned, and now you may tell your friends you have defeated a king.
No one is ever going to believe this, but I'll have witnesses. And he points at Arlen and Court.
Yeah, buddy.
I clap him on the back, and well, shall we proceed?
Right. This way, please. And he leads you once again to the large, thick fence of thorn-studded vines, which make up the barrier to the staff area. And with a muttered word, the door does appear, and he steps aside, bows deeply, and gestures for you to enter.
Yeah, hell yeah.
You all file through, and he follows up behind you and points you towards the largest of the wagons. It is. You've seen it before a few times, Court. It is covered in golden filigree and standing towards one of the rear wheels is a go is a it is a sort of rounder human dressed as a clown with the this is with his hat off, and he started wiping down his paint. He is smoking from a pipe which blows bubbles every time he takes a draw. And he looks at you, and he looks at Burley, and Burley looks at him. Get out of here! Get out of here! They're here to see they're here boss's invite. And this clown sort of glowers at you all, steps back, and pulls the door open. Inside the wagon, you do see both Witch and Light still in his red and silver, or in his red and white diamond paned outfit. They gesture for you to come inside, and then this clown closes the door behind you all when the last of you enters, and they gesture for you to sit. There are two sort of bench seats running the inside of the wagon near the door, and Witch is standing in a curtained doorway that leads further into the wagon, and Light is seated on a table that is to one side of the archway, and with a somewhat heavy sigh as you all are coming in and seating yourselves, Witch looks at you and just says, "Oh, I suppose we have some we have some matters to discuss then. You
Hemlock
all,
sits down and like wraps his tail around his legs and tries to look very small.
you all have. It took me a minute, I gotta say, to remember exactly who you, and he's pointing at you, Hemlock. You, on the other hand, Your Majesty, are somewhat, well, shall we say, unforgettable. I know that the last time you were here, there was incidents. There were. Oh God, I'm so sorry, Paul Simon. There were accidents, incidents, and accidents. I'm
Yes, there were hidden allegations.
I'm sure you have heard many of the rumors that surround this carnival, and your erstwhile companion, and it is at this point you realize Kettlesteam has not been with you for at least 30 or 40 minutes. Like the entire time that somewhere during the processional, Kettlesteam vanished. Now, you've heard you know the connection that this place has to Prismeer, and there are many things which I am not at liberty to discuss, but I can say that many of the lost things find their way into Prismeer. I can not guarantee that they are there. I could not tell you if they are, where they are. I, for many reasons, have never returned to Prismeer since we were given control of this carnival. There are forces at work. I would encourage you, for your sakes, to let what is gone be gone. However, I sense that that is not. Well, I sense that that is easier for me to say than it is for you to do. Do I have the measure of it all?
You know, a foot is one thing. I'm, okay, I guess. But like people are missing, Mr. Witch.
They're not missing the way your foot is missing, Arlen. Anyone who's found their way to Prismeer found their way there, well, shall we say, voluntarily. It's the only way, really, one can make their way to that place.
Does that go for Banner's friend Harold as well?
He looks genuinely confused for a second. I'm sorry, who's Harold again?
Well, he's my friend. He was a gnome, rather old. He came here 8 years ago to try and secure work for he and I here in the carnival. And he never came out. And when I confronted you 8 years ago, you said that he had left. But no one has seen him since he entered this carnival 8 years ago.
He and Mr. Light share a look, And Mr. Light's smile sort of fades for a second, and he gives a little nod. And Witch takes his hat off, sets it on the table next to Light, and rubs his very bald head. All right, look. We didn't do nothing to Harold. This carnival used to be operated by someone else. Harold knew that person. And when we refused him a job, he said that he knew we weren't the rightful owners of this place. And he's right. His friend is, well, she's alive. Just like your friend Harold, last time I saw him, was alive. I was not lying. We told him we did not want your services, and we sent him on his way. He should have made his way back to you. If he didn't, it's nothing we've done, but it seems like a knot that he may have found his way into Prismere.
Very well. You say that Harold was aware of the former owner of the carnival and was also aware that you were not the rightful owners. Is this correct?
No. No. And he's very emphatic about this. We are the rightful, we have a contract. Isolde, and you, Banner, you remember Harold mentioning the name Isolde.
Okay.
Isolde swapped. She's where she's supposed to be, and we're running this place. A deal's a deal. We all made the deal. Good.
Just like kind of indicating for a clarification on she.
Isolde. Look, we didn't always run the Witchlight Carnival. It wasn't called the Witchlight Carnival before we got it. We happened to run into Isolde when our carnivals crossed paths. We ran a different carnival. Seeing as we was all operating our carnivals, and none of us was particularly slushed with the place we was at, we opted for a trade. Light and myself, we got Isolde's carnival, and Isolde is running our carnival in a different place. We've kept up our end of our contract. As I slip into Pearly again. We've kept up our end, and as far as we can tell, Isolde has kept up her end. Should circumstances arrange for our carnivals to revert to ownership, we would all honor that deal. But until that time, we are the rightful operators of the Witchlight Carnival. Your friend Harold he didn't quite see it that way. He thought that we must have scammed Isolde or something. Even showed him the contract with her signature. He wasn't happy about it. We all decided it was best if we all parted ways. And I swear that was the last time we saw it.
And so it is your position that entirely possible, perhaps even likely, that he and Early and Star and Gleam all found their way into Prismere?
Look, it's possible with any of them. I don't think. I mean, Star's just a cub. We looked all over. He couldn't have. Look, he's an animal. He's a beast. He's not awoken like Durlagron is. Durlagron knows this. There's no way that Star could have consented to travel through into Prismere.
And yet,
Look, Athos is a big and horrible world. This carnival is one of the few bright lights there. It's not a great world to visit. Arlen, Court, you two have been there. It's a giant desert.
Yeah.
It's skeletons and liches and all kinds of horrible undead and sand and scorpions.
So much sand. So much sand.
awoken or not, that may still have been Grant enough for a scared little creature to have foregone its freedom? Forsaken its freedom? What takes someone to Prismere?
That I can't say. And I
Can't or
do
won't?
mean can't. Even if I wanted to tell you. There are. And he kind of eyes you up and down, Hemlock. And there's a flash of sort of the same bluish, like, magical aura that you saw around yourself and Yarrow 8 years ago, from him, and he just looks at you and says, "Can't." A deal is a deal, and we made the deal we made. Circumstances have changed since we made that deal, but there are circumstances changed since we made the deal, and there are things that I can't tell you, but there are ways that we can help you. If, and he's saying all this suddenly in a rush, and Mr. Light is looking at him sort of surprised. If it is your intention to make it into Prismere and perhaps reclaim your lost property, then there are limited ways that we can help you. As it stands, there will already be repercussions for our carnival and our employees, but I don't see why we can't help, Mr. Light. After all we're doing is just letting them in. And Mr. Light looks around at all of you, somewhat startled expression on his face, as he just sort of is searching your faces for, like, this isn't what you're asking of us, is it? And he just says, but Mr. Witch, that place is, it's dangerous now. They seem like a scrappy bunch.
Is Mr. Witch?
Yeah.
I think a few of us have little option.
You have plenty of option. You can leave here. You can cross over that bridge, exit the carnival. Tomorrow we'll be gone. And you don't have to worry about the nagging feeling of something missing for another 8 years. You can keep badgering us, keep asking me questions, but I can't get back what was taken from you. I can't bring back anyone who's gone through to Prismere.
Can you speak to the heard of? He looks briefly at Mr. Light and says, Hourglass Coven. Is that one in the same with Isolde?
Isolde's just an elf. Last I heard, she's somewhere out in Barovia, I think. Our carnival. Mr. Light and myself. We're not from here. We're not from Prismere either. We are Shadowkai, which you've probably never heard of, from a place... From a place, well, darker and far less lively than this place. It's part of why we love running this place so much. The colors, the lights, the sounds, the smells, the happiness. Didn't really get that in Gloomrot, did we, Mr. Light? No, certainly not. I'm sorry for what happened to all of you. I'm sorry that things were taken. I can't do anything on my own to get them back for you. The most I can offer you is a way to speak with those who have taken them. It's a one-way trip. I won't lie, I won't try to deceive you. Once you're there in Prismere, you're on your own. It's up to you to find a way back.
Done.
I have all the time in the world. So, Emlak, I would be happy to accompany you, and hopefully we can find some of these people and items that are missing. Alan, Court, I know it is a much larger ask for both of you. You are employed here, but we do seem to make a good team, and your company would be most welcome.
Gee. I don't know.
I've
Right.
listened to enough stories to know whether it's from those who went and are glad they did, or those who didn't and regretted it, that this isn't the kind of thing you turn down.
Got a point, little cheese. Hmm.
Mr. Witch and Mr. Light, I know that you have said that once we go, that you will not be able to assist us in getting back. However, I have faith in my companions. And so I ask, if we are in fact able to get back, will there still be employment for Arlen and Court if they so desire?
Mr. Witch looks you both up and down. Of
Court is
course.
Court is like leaning in, big eyes.
We'll call this paid time off.
Speaking of
We'll
which,
call it time off, at least.
Oh, well,
And he gives what is a very awkward smile, as though it is an action that he is exceedingly unfamiliar with and is sort of approximating based on what he has seen other people do.
Court leaps up and gives him a big hug, as big as he can manage. He's very small.
The mention of the paid time, it reminds me of a smaller issue, but one that needs a resolution nonetheless. My friend Arlen here was explaining to me before the Witchlight Monarch ceremony that there's a tradition of betting on the Witchlight Monarch and who it will be, but no one ever wins. And then he mentioned, and I saw him place a bet on me. And as we all know, I did in fact win, so I am curious. Where does Arlen go to collect his winnings?
Banner, I don't know if they handle that.
Witch looks down at Court, wrapped around like his midsection.
Yeah, just clinging to the front of him like a
awkwardly pats you on the head. All right, Court. I hope this helps you find yourself again. As for the betting pool, well, we don't officially sanction any of that sort of thing. Who did you say, Arlen, was
see, I got
pool?
you. You believe everything I say because I am the Witchlight Monarch.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one, Banner.
Yes, I completely made it up just in the moment. No one would do such a thing as to go against you. Of course, Thaco knows this. He would not subtract the funds from people to...
So glad there's someone. Mr. Light is like arms wrapped around his midsection, like feet kicking, laughing at all of this. Like, and that goes on for a good 3 or 4 minutes, and eventually he wipes his eyes as Mr. Witch kind of, like, as he's patting you on the head, Court eventually just stops and just very gently is like trying to push you off of him.
He'll detach eventually.
I turned to Arlen and Hemlock and Court. Do any of you remember Keter Stream's patron? Perhaps they have some information about this individual?
Zybilna.
Zybilna, yes. Apologies.
I'm very familiar with Zybilna. Zybilna is the one who brokered the deal between Mr. Light and myself and Isolde. She is the ruler of Prismere. She is, in fact, the patron of the Witchlight Carnival. And he spreads his arms and sort of nods in deference just to the name. Your Kenku friend isn't wrong. It's been some time since we've had direct contact with Zybilna. It's not entirely unusual, you understand. Zybilna is an archfey. They don't really perceive time the way that even we elves do. Well, Shadowkai are elves. Point is, It's not unusual for us to not hear from Zybilna for some time. Kenku is right, though. It's perhaps the longest that we haven't heard from Zybilna, but for a number of reasons, we can't go into Prismia to look for her and try to speak to her ourselves. If you can spare the time while you're there, it's certainly an issue we would appreciate your assistance with, and it is very clear that he is straining to say something, but the words do not form. If you if you'd like to discuss a little more, we are ready whenever you are prepared to step through to Prismir. I know you've only brought a few of your things. We can supply you as best we can for your journey, at the very least. That's the least we can do for the Witchlight Monarch.
Well, please, we will avail ourselves of any supplies that you can spare, and perhaps some that you cannot.
I'm gonna go back. Court runs away.
Mr. Light, if you will take these 3 and make arrangements, I will see to other matters. Mr. Light nods and springs off of the table. Well, this is very exciting, and it's very clear that the word he actually wants is terrifying. But he does sort of prance his way down the steps of the wagon and opens the door to the outside, where the clown that has been previously introduced to you as Thaco is in the process of twisting a series of a set of long colored balloons into various shapes.
You seem to be making super complicated computations there, Mr. Thaco.
He says nothing as he holds out a as he holds out to you a balloon animal in the shape of basically like a Rock'em Sock'em robot. This balloon has a string, but when he releases the string, the balloon does not float or fall. It just stays exactly where he left it in the air. And he gestures to the balloon and then to you.
Yeah, I'll reach out and grab that balloon.
It's literally a balloon whose sole magic is that it does not float away or fall. It is neutrally buoyant.
I will sit it on my shoulder. So I have a balloon Rock'em Sock'em robot sitting on my shoulder.
As each of you step off the wagon, Arlen, the balloon that he holds out to you is... Oh my god, I love these. Oh my god. He holds out it is basically, it's you. It is a rabbit with one foot slightly shorter than the other. Not slightly. The last bit is a different color balloon, and most prominently, however, there is a round there's a round balloon floating near the balloon use shoulder that glows with a sort of inner magical light as he hands the balloon over to you.
This is incredible. You even got Lavro in there.
He fixes you with a blank stare as he hands one to Hemlock that is it's a skeleton with a tail and horns and two tiny little balloon eyes that are different colors that match yours. And he says nothing as he sets it in front of him to float, pulls out a small bag, somehow blows a sort of squarish balloon and tucks it under one of the skeleton's arms and then floats the balloon over.
Hemlock winces and takes it and just kind of silently mouths thank you with the most like pained grimace.
The last balloon animal that he creates and sort of leaves floating where he finishes it is it looks like a butterfly. It is a holy shit. How did you have that on hand?
What the fuck?
I'm so excited when you said that.
That's fucking great.
That is bonkers.
Oh, this
Oh my
scene
God.
haunts me. Low square breaths.
So off track now. It is a very fanciful pair of wings with butterfly wings, obviously, with two very tiny antennas. And while this butterfly should have the usual 6 legs and all that, it in fact it has 2 legs and 2 very awkward stubby little hands. No arms, just hands. And with a sort of almost a sneer, he turns and walks away, blowing a large stream of bubbles out of his pipe. And Mr. Light looks at these animals and looks at you all somewhat incredulously, and eventually, like, a smile breaks out on his face. I don't remember the last time he actually performed. There was an incident, you understand, with his knife throwing show, and well, he's never been the same since. He hates making those things, but he's the best. He's just damn the best at it. Follow me, please. And with the same sort of marching motion that he led you around the carnival with, but without the accompanying music this time, he takes you through the staff area to one of the other wagons. This one is, of all the wagons, easily the most plain. It has a plain white canvas, sort of like you'd see on like the stereotypical U.S. history, like wagons west type wagon, like minor 49er type thing, with no decoration whatsoever. And we'll go over that. He marches in place for a few steps and then slams his foot to the ground. Well, this is our supply wagon. What sort of things? And with a tap of the scepter against the wagon, the doors fly open, and he begins just rummaging in the wagon and tossing supplies out to you all. Mechanically, if there's any sort of mundane thing that you didn't start with that you realize you would want, they are able to provide it for you. All of the things that you would have in your starting inventory but would not have brought to a carnival, like explorers kits and all that, are provided to you. The food that you are provided, however, is not in the form of rations. It is fair food, and
Oh,
this
Christ.
Fuck yes.
it
Oh,
is
yes.
it is made clear that this will magically keep.
Oh, thank God. That's what I was freaked out about.
But like you all are staring at this like pile of like funnel cakes and apple tarts, and it is all the most sugary saccharine food. There is zero savory in the pile that you have just been handed, except for a handful of corn dogs, and that's it.
Yep, yep, yep.
Oh,
Um,
dear.
Court.
You see Arlen just kind of loading his bag up with specifically the caramel apples that are in the bobbing for caramel apples in a pool of melted chocolate carnival game. It's all he's putting in his bag.
Court, you are in your tent, throwing your stuff together, and sort of packing when there is a knock at your wagon door, which is open.
Mhm, mhm,
Um,
mhm, mhm.
and as you are still throwing stuff in and turn to look, Mr. Witch is standing there, hat on his head. I do feel I owe you somewhat of an apology for, in your contract, in your employment contract, there's a bit about being away, about not working properly. And, well, when Glista said that she had cleared everything with me, she hadn't. And so when the two of you spent a few days looking for Gleam, that constituted a violation of your contract, and you were technically not an employee. And so while you were running around, even though you were working that day so long ago, uh, well, you weren't employed, and so that left you vulnerable.
I see.
I've amended all the employment contracts to make sure that that never happens again. If you find Gleam in there, and I imagine Glister went in looking for her, just tell them their family is still here when they come back.
I will, Mr. Witch. Thank you. Thank you.
He plops his hat on his head and gives you a nod. Good luck in there, Court. I hope you find everything that you're looking for.
He gives them a big smile. Me too. And I'll be back in your hair before you know it.
Joke's on you. I haven't had hair for 3 centuries.
Ah, that's the joke! On both of us, I guess, now, because you pulled the old switcheroo on me. One last quick one, and he gives him a big hug again, but only for like 2 seconds.
His hands are just up, like, okay. Well, follow me. They should be making their way to the gate.
And he scuttles up on his shoulder like a little critter.
He stops dead. Absolutely not.
Come on. He just starts like crawling on his back, on the back of his suit, like a little bug.
I am not moving. I will leave you here.
He lifts up his hat and slaps his bald head and then jumps down.
I'm so glad this is a one-way portal.
You're so
Get
fucking
moving.
fired.
You'll miss me.
I won't.
You say that, but I know the truth.
He leads you past the rest of the staff wagons as the various other performers and hands that you have come to think of as your family here. Northwind and Red the Squirrel give you a wave, and Burley is standing there with his jack-o'-lantern in his hand, and scratches his head and waves. From the other side, this is as you've all gotten back together, so that they are sort of seeing all of you through the vine barrier that separates the staff area, and Candlefoot and Palasha, he's basically carrying Palasha, who is out of her enclosure, as you all make your way through, and they all cheer a couple times for you as you make your way through, and the vines close behind you all and cut off the
I do cartwheels and I wave to them and I blow kisses and I cry.
Now, so in the excitement of everything, getting all busy, I may have let something slip my mind. I should go tell my parents that I'm like leaving.
What?
Yeah.
You didn't do that?
We gave you time, Arlen.
I was
run.
so excited. Okay,
You better
yeah, I'll be
fucking
right
hurry.
back.
They are actually.
You would not believe how much time he spent stuffing candy apples into a sack.
Arlen is just carrying so much stuff, too much stuff. Like he's got so much stuff that like he's gonna have to put stuff down before.
Yeah, I
he
was
goes.
gonna say encumbrance is a thing. Watch
Yeah,
what you say.
Yeah, for sure. He's encumbered. He sets
You can
down a
hand
bag.
you can hand a
and
bunch of that stuff off to Banner.
So much of it clanks, and
You have that like cartoon Santa Claus bag that is like 3 times your size.
he's just been dragging it along. There's like a trail in the dirt.
Arlen, I truly don't think the portable ram will be proving necessary. We'll be able to manage to get around without it.
You never know is the thing. I also have like 12 daggers in here. I've never used a dagger before, but
Arlen, may I ask a question? Is that a third sack of candy apples?
that one is essential, actually.
Okay, very well.
Your parents are not far off. They are sort of wondering what's going on and making their way, and they're like, as you're approaching, they look very confused. Arlen, dear, we've heard you're going somewhere. You didn't get fired, did you?
No. Well, no. I think I know or I have a lead on how to get my foot back. It's a lot to explain, but
Well, you're going to try, young man.
ah,
No. He's grown. If he wants to go off on a wild adventure, we need to support him. No, he's not grown. He is still my boy. He's an adult. Think of what we did when we were his age. We kind of ran plane hopping. Like, do we have to let him? No, no. Where are you going, Arlen?
I am not. I don't totally remember exactly, but it's somewhere in, I think, the Feywild, maybe. And basically, we're gonna figure out what's been going on and fix everything, and it's gonna be great. You may remember 8 years ago the others that also lost things. It's
Ooh.
Look, there's a lot. Hemlock, Banner, you know Court, of course, too. We're gonna go and we've got kind of a lead. We're gonna see if we can get to the bottom of what's been going on. I'll be back. I promise.
There are tears starting to well up as she sniffs a few times and nods. Right, I guess I have to let you go, but you at least have to take this. And she presses into your hand a small charm. Just I know how you eat, and you're going to need this. And this is a charm that will let you cast Lesser Restoration 3 times before it is out of magic.
Oh, thank you. That's great. That's really good. Okay, well, I love you. I promise to be careful. See you soon. And he gives him a big ol' hug and starts hopping off.
You rejoin the rest of the group as Mr. Light and Mr. Witch lead you out of the staff area and to the Hall of Illusions. The carnival is odd. Like, it is almost eerie how quiet and empty it is after you all have spent the last the bulk of the day here, when it was packed, just wall to wall with people. And the street, or the walkways, are now completely deserted. The lights are barely glowing enough for you all to see, and with a large ring of keys, they unlock the door to the Hall of Illusions and lead you to the very final mirror. And as you all are walking, you can see the reflections of Mr. Witch and Mr. Light as they traverse the mirrors that, as you've seen before, going through the various ages, from some rather gloomy looking Shatterkai children, all the way through. The mirrors that would show you the future, oddly enough, don't reflect them at all. And when you finally reach the last mirror, the final mirror, the largest of the mirrors that shows you as you actually are, they stop and turn to look at each other and nod with some resolution as they face you. And Mr. Witch says, Everything you're looking for, everything you need, is beyond this mirror. Stand in front of the glass and repeat. Hither, thither, here, and there. Wander yonder, show me where.
I do so. I repeat those words.
Sorry, getting some water. You all stand in front of the mirror, and Mr. Witch and Mr. Light step to the sides, and for a moment before you speak, you see the 4 of you reflected in the mirror with the sort of determination and resolution on your faces to retrieve what was lost, to get back what was taken from you, and to find the potentially find some of the others who have gone missing, whether it is Harold or Star or some of the other friends that you have made, Arlen and Court, here at the Witchlight Carnival. You speak the rhyme that that Mr. Witch gave you, and the mirror in your reflection from behind you, a mist begins to roll over you all until your reflections are blotted out entirely. There's just this wall of mist which begins to it begins to swirl clockwise into almost like a small maelstrom. There are flashes of blue and green sparks and ripples of magical energy as the portal begins to form. And once it has formed fully, you each step through. Court, you are the last one to go through. And before you, as you go to step, Mr. Witch puts a hand on top of your head and spins you around. He kneels down so that he's in front of you face to face. And with a look of serious concern on his face, just says, "Mind the rule of 3, future, past, and present." And Mr. Light bends down and hugs you from behind and whispers very quietly, "Find the alicorn, free the dormant queen." And then they shove you through the portal. And that's where we're going to stop tonight.